Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of the Petri Dish. Today we have a local compadre. He's in the Big Ten, so I'll call him local, but Big Ten's football for those who aren't familiar, especially those of you abroad. But we have Paul, who knows a little bit about the cloud, a lot about Veeam, and even probably more about what's happening in the industry. Paul, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hey, thanks, Brad. It's good to be here. I'm Paul Mattis. I'm the Vice President of the Global Cloud Group at Veeam. And I look after the cloud business globally for Veeam, all aspects from sales, marketing, services, programmatic elements of the business. And been with Veeam for about a little over a year now. And yes, I'm a Penn State fan, so can't take that away from me.
So I had to rib him a little bit because I'm a Buckeyes fan, and over the weekend there was a big game. But you know what? Rivalries aside, can all agree about one thing. The cloud is really kind of where a lot of the momentum is, right? There's definitely a lot of energy in the cloud. Not that on-premises is going away anytime soon, but there's definitely a lot of people in the hybrid scenario and a lot of people saying, you know what, is Azure my thing? Is AWS my thing? What are you hearing in the industry?
So for sure, what we're hearing and what we're talking about with customers is the cloud is now. Sometimes we hear customers saying, "Well, cloud is the next wave," or
Hmm.
I tend to think that wave is washing over us every single day. If you look at growth in the cloud business globally, I mean, look at Microsoft, look at Amazon. These are multi-billion-dollar organizations now. There was a stat from IDC that said by 2020, which is just 3 years from now, 46% of all IT spending is going to be spent on the cloud. So in just
Wow.
3 short years, that's a pretty significant number. And so this is part of the reason why Veeam is very dialed into and providing solutions for the cloud. You'll hear us talk about any app, any data, any cloud, and that's really the vision that we have as we continue to evolve from the great legacy that we've had historically and the success that we've had in virtualization, and now moving to encompass the cloud business as well.
Yeah, so why don't we dive into that a little bit here? Because historically, to your point, when you thought about Veeam, and it's because they've been around for a while, it's backup. A lot of people think of on-premises for backup, but obviously in the cloud, you also need backup and you also need redundancy because even though Microsoft and Amazon will tell you that they're up 99.9% of the time, depending on your region or your specific sector, or if the pipelines are cut or whatever, that's not always the case. So tell us how this works in the cloud and how to best kind of best practices from that aspect.
Sure. So when we talk about the cloud at Veeam, we like to talk about it in three pillars, and we talk about to the cloud, from the cloud, and then within the cloud. And with the knowledge and understanding that it's a multi-cloud world. You hear our lineage was from on-prem virtualized environments, but that's now moved into as well to encompass managed service providers, hosted private clouds, on-prem private clouds, hybrid clouds, and of course the big hyperscale cloud players like Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and IBM. And so when we talk about those three pillars of the cloud, to, from, and within, we those really encompass kind of the canonical use cases where we see customers now and where we see customers going. And let me give you some examples.
Hmm.
So that when we talk about to the cloud, that's where the majority of the industry is right now. This is using some type of cloud infrastructure to provide backup of your existing infrastructure. And you may hear us talk about the 3-2-1 rule, which is 3 copies of your backups on 2 different media, one of which is stored off-site. And this is about moving backups and doing disaster recovery into the cloud. From the cloud, and it kind of touched on one of the scenarios you mentioned, Brad, in terms of availability, and I'll talk about this in a second. This is about making sure that your investments in software as a service offerings, that you're responsible for the data protection and availability of those. It's interesting. A lot of customers think, "Hey, it's in the cloud, it's okay." But if you read the data protection and retention policies of say Office 365 or Salesforce or any of the top, say 30 or 40 SaaS providers, they will tell you very clearly that that data protection is your responsibility. What they focus on is application availability, right? They've gotten very, very good at making sure those platforms don't go down. But what we're focused on is business availability at Veeam. So this isn't about protecting you if Office 365 is suddenly not available, but if you have accidental deletion or malicious deletion of something from Office 365, we have solutions that will allow you to recover from that. And then last but not least, within the cloud, and this is becoming one where we're hearing more and more from customers and partners, which is they want to be able to manage their entire data protection and availability for all their cloud assets within that same cloud. So inside of Azure, within Amazon. And then lastly, we're increasingly hearing about cloud mobility and being able to move from one cloud infrastructure to another as seamlessly as possible. And those are all scenarios that we are or will, in the not too distant future, be supporting.
Very, very interesting. Yeah, somebody brought up, and I'm going to be very curious to see on your take on this. It was actually a client who was moving away from the cloud, and they called it their ejection route. And what they wanted to do was they had a lot of things up in, I believe it was AWS, and they were going to go over to Azure. And what they ended up doing was they took a snapshot of Azure, which was essentially just a backup. They told me, they said it was a backup snapshot, downloaded that, got it all off on their own hardware that they still had around, and then they moved it over to Azure. And they said that is their now path for when they need to move platforms, is just taking backup snapshots and just dragging those files around as they need it. And obviously, you want to do that as simplex as possible, but that's still a complex task. So
it is a complex task, and it needs to be done. It needs to be done very carefully. And our goal is to provide a platform and a set of tools that will allow you to do that, very thoughtfully and very carefully, and obviously as seamlessly and as easily as possible.
Yeah, and so I'm curious to get your insight on this. What are you seeing that people are doing in the backup space and recovery space, and just that on-demand, always online space, that is a cautionary perspective? Are you seeing any, we usually talk about best practices, but sometimes it's the bad practices that are getting people into a lot of trouble because they're doing a certain thing. Are you seeing any trends of people saying, yeah, we're taking shortcuts and doing certain things that you want to make our listeners aware of?
Nothing that's really top of mind, Brad. But I do see and again, not to go back to the same scenario, but with customers not, I guess from a bad practices is not building availability into your cloud architecture and your cloud migration plans from the beginning. And before I came to Veeam, I spent 13 years at Microsoft. The last 6 of which were helping to build the Azure business there. And I think the thing that customers are starting to learn now is, just like you would architect and have data protection and availability as part of any on-prem solution, you need to have that built into what you're doing in the cloud. So I would say the worst practice there is not thinking about that and not saying, okay, I have to protect this the same way or a similar way to the way I've been doing this, historically. And certainly when you're thinking about moving to a software as a service provider, really making sure you understand what their policy is and what you're capable of doing when things go wrong, and things unfortunately always go wrong.
Yeah. One other question that actually somebody posed to me not long ago, and I think you're the perfect person for this, is so obviously when you think about the cloud, one of the benefits is you can scale very easily. How does Veeam's backup software scale with those type of scenarios? That if you go spin up new VMs real quick, how does the backup story work into that?
Yeah, sure. So we have a highly scalable architecture. If you, say, for example, are a service provider and you need to scale out across an infrastructure that you've spun up, Veeam can scale out right along with you. And one of the features that we've announced for an upcoming release is actually bringing a scale out backup repository into the public cloud. So if you need to take advantage of object storage in Azure or in Amazon, you can scale out very, very quickly using that scale out mechanism as a backup repository, taking advantage of those hyperscale infrastructures. So it's a pretty straightforward process, and customers love it.
And so one last definite question here. Do you all offer SLAs when things are up in the cloud about backup and recovery, those restore point objectives and things like that?
So we talk about our RTOs and our RPOs, and those are well documented. In terms of an SLA, Veeam itself doesn't provide an SLA. Those are provided through our service providers, who we have over 16,000 of them now worldwide.
Oh wow!
We crossed over 16,700 of them to go along with. We have 45,000 channel partners worldwide. So they do a terrific job in providing data protection and availability infrastructures with really terrific SLAs. We help them meet those SLAs, and that's where we play.
Yeah, so if I understand correctly, that if you need SLAs through the software, it's definitely available, and you can go shop it around and find the best one that's going to fit your scenario.
Absolutely, yes. And you've got a lot of choice globally with 16,000 of them out there.
16,000. That's I don't know if you know Rick Vanover. I've known him for many, many years, and I remember when those numbers used to be. I remember when it was a big deal. I think when that number crossed 10,000, and now the fact that it's up over 16, you guys are growing like crazy.
We are. It's really that's part of the reason why I came to Veeam a year ago. It's just an exciting organization. We're adding about 4,000 new customers every month. This year we've added over 5,000 new service providers. So we just continue to see the trend growing and growing, and believe that kind of scale is terrific for us, but our culture is to still just stay very, very close to customers and provide them with just a fantastic platform. You've heard in the past Veeam's motto of "it just works," and I think that's why customers really love us and partners really like using us.
Very cool. Couple wind-up questions here. If people want to learn about you and yourself, what's the best way to go about doing that, or to contact you for that matter?
Oh, sure. You can contact me at paul.mattis@veeam.com. And my LinkedIn profile is up to date. The picture there looks a little different than this face does now because it was taken a few years ago. But that's a great way to go to find out about me, and anybody can feel free to email me anytime.
Gotcha. And then the one last question here. What's your exit thought? If you want somebody to take something away from this, what's the one thing that you wanted to know about Veeam, the cloud, or what's going on in the industry? What's your closing remarks here?
So a couple of thanks for the opportunity, Brad. I appreciate that. So a couple of things. I would say that if you don't have a cloud strategy that factors into your data protection and availability plans, you need to get one. And obviously Veeam would be happy to talk with you about that. There are some terrific economic and other advantages to moving to a cloud-based infrastructure for data protection and availability. And again, Veeam provides a lot of fantastic options to make sure that you get that right. And then third, I would say that the cloud is happening now. This is something that there is no going back, and it's happening. I believe, at least from my few decades in this industry, it's happening at a pace that's much faster than anything we've seen before, and that's exciting. And there's a lot of opportunity for organizations to capitalize on that and take advantage of it right now.
Very, very cool, and very much appreciate you stopping by. Obviously, you have different insights than somebody like myself, who's typically on the outside, and I observe the industry and write about it a lot. But sometimes dipping your toes in, and well, you're much more than your toes in. You're probably waist deep at this point. So we very much appreciate up to your neck, very much so. Very much appreciate you stopping by, and thanks for tuning in, everybody. This has been another episode of the Petri Dish, and we'll catch you right back here next time.